Hey guys, so I'm out of school right now, of course, because of the social distancing requirements, and I thought that I would do a video on the best mystery thrillers that I've read lately to maybe give you some ideas of some things you can read if you are also stuck at home like me. So I'm going to talk about my top 4 mystery thrillers that I have read probably, I would say, in about the past month. So the first one that I want to talk about today is Riley Sager, and I'm actually going to talk about 2 of his books. This one I just finished reading, and it's called Lock Every Door, and if you've read any of his books before, they're all great. I loved Final Girls. I love the one I'm going to talk about in just a minute. And this one was very interesting because it didn't end up being what I thought it was going to be once I got into the story. So the main character gets this crazy job offer to be a house sitter, or not a house sitter, but like a room sitter in this hotel called the Bartholomew in New York City. It's a really fancy hotel, and it has, really high-end clients that live there, and she gets offered to be paid like an insane amount of money, and she really needs it at this time because she's out of a job. She had to move out of her apartment. So the book kind of started out a little bit slow. At the beginning, I was kind of wondering, like, okay, so where is this going? It was slowly kind of, giving you hints that something's not quite right at this place. There were just so many oddities. And then when you get to kind of the end and the big reveal of everything happening, I was really surprised. I didn't see this kind of taking that route. So I was pleasantly surprised. Overall, I would say this is probably not my favorite Riley Sager book, but it is definitely a good one if you like atmospheric books about kind of old creepy hotels that have a really cool backstory. So the backstory to this hotel that the main character starts to kind of figure out as she decides to move in there is that there were a lot of people who died during the Spanish flu epidemic in 1918. The man who built the hotel committed suicide. There's some link to some strange murders, and nobody in the hotel really talks about anything, which makes it even creepier. So you do have this really creepy vibe throughout. It's fun to try to guess, okay, what is up with this place? And of course I did not guess correctly. But anyway, Lock Every Door, I would definitely recommend reading it. And I'll talk about Riley Sager again in just a minute. Alright, so the next book that I want to talk about is The Holdout, and this is one of my Book of the Month books. And it was actually a book that I wasn't really sure I was going to enjoy because it's set more around a trial rather than like the mystery and figuring out what happened and the murder and all that kind of stuff, or so I thought. So I picked this book just to try to, give it a chance. The premise is that a crime was committed. There was a girl that vanished years ago from a wealthy family, and the jury did not convict the man that was suspected. And one of the main character was on the jury, and some people have second doubts about it. Other jurors have second doubts, and she is adamantly sure that they got it correct, that they did not convict the man. He was innocent and that they shouldn't have convicted him. But they got a lot of backlash from it because the public, it was a high publicity case, and the public thought that they should have convicted him, that they thought he was guilty. So anyway, kind of fast forward, I think it's maybe about 10 years later, there's somebody doing a podcast trying to get everybody back together. She finally relents and goes back and agrees to, be on this podcast and be a part of it. And one of the other jurors claims that he has evidence that proves that the man that they said was not guilty is actually guilty. Well, guess what? Something happens to him and he gets murdered, and now she's the prime suspect. So she's got to figure out who murdered this other juror. Meanwhile, kind of going back and forth between the old case and the new, and how are those linked together. So I really ended up enjoying this book. It wasn't really like anything I read before. I did like the trial stuff. It does kind of go into detail, especially at the beginning when she first gets selected as a jury member. It's just kind of interesting seeing how different states do things, and this is set in California. So that part was interesting, but that's not obviously the whole setting. So there's kind of a lot of twisty-turny things. I really liked the ending. I thought it was very clever, and again, this was definitely worth it. So you get a little bit of a trial kind of lawyer side to it, and then a little crime mystery and trying to figure out what happened to the girl that vanished from the first trial, and then the person who gets murdered in the second part of the story. So anyway, The Holdout by Graham Moore is another good recommendation for those of you who want a good mystery to try to figure out. Alright, so this is the second Riley Sager book that I wanted to talk about. This is called The Last Time I Lied. And let me just say that I loved this book. It is probably one of the best. The next one I'm going to talk about is the best, but this is probably one of the best mystery thrillers that I've read in a long time. And what I liked about this book is I think it was really a lot with the setting. Set at a summer camp. So kind of the premise with this book, there are a group of girls, or 3 girls, that go missing, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago in the 80s sometime. And one of the girls that's in the cabin does not go missing. So she's like the only one from this little cabin of 4 that is fine. The other 3 girls go missing and they never find them. So kind of fast forward about 20 so years, and the woman who owns the camp has decided to reopen it. And she invites the girl that doesn't go missing to come back and teach art classes, because she's an artist now and she's gotten famous for her artwork of the vanishing girls, the way that she sees them now. She's also been dealing with a lot since then, being the only survivor, and she was actually a little bit younger than the girls who went missing. So I really just love the whole camp atmosphere, kind of going back and revisiting. You don't know how much you can really rely on the main character about, because she does deal with some kind of issues, and at times you're not sure if what she's telling you or what she's saying is it accurate. Then you kind of get input from different people who were also there when the girls went vanished. Some of the other people who come back and said that they're going to work at the camp too. You don't know who to trust, you don't know who to believe, and the main character starts to try to unravel what really happened to the girls that went missing, and she doesn't know who she can trust. So I mean, that kind of compiled with the nostalgic feel of summer camp, and all the fun stuff that goes with that. She actually gets put back in the cabin that she was in before, and she is in charge of 3 other girls. I really liked those characters. You know, I'm a teacher, so I thought it was interesting the different girls that they had, or she had in the cabin with her, that she was kind of in charge of and trying to take under her wing at the same time, going through this difficult time being back at the camp and going through all she had to deal with before. And the ending is just crazy. So you do have a little thriller aspect of it, more so I felt than the other Riley Sager book, The Lock Every Door. But again, just great top to bottom. I can remember, you know, having to making myself put this down at night, so I could go to sleep and not stay up reading, but I was thinking about it all the next day, trying to figure out, oh, what's really going on here. So again, this is The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. Okay, so the last book I wanted to talk about is probably my favorite that I've read so far this year. This is called The Sundown Motel. It was another Book of the Month pick, and what I really liked about this book is that you get alternate point of view, one from 1982 and then one from, I think it's 2017. So kind of the main premise is that the main character, her aunt went missing in 1982, and her mother has just died. She doesn't really have any family. She has a brother, and she gets really kind of fixated on this aunt that's gone missing, and she wants to go and see if she can, you know, retrace her steps and figure out what happened to her aunt, because they never found out. So she goes back to where her aunt was last seen and last working, which was the Sundown Motel in the middle of nowhere. I think it's somewhere in New York. So she goes back, and she gets a job at the hotel, and she starts uncovering things about, you know, what her aunt was doing there, what it was like for her. She starts interviewing people. She gets help from one of the retired police chiefs. She befriends a boy, or I should say a young man. She moves into an apartment, and her roommate that takes her in is also helping her too. And then it flashes back to what the aunt was going through in 1982. So you have these two kind of parallel, timelines that are going on. And then there's also a paranormal aspect. So is there, ghosts there? Is somebody just playing around? Is it tricks? You don't really know at the beginning, so that's what makes it all the more fascinating to get into and see what really happened to the aunt. And then you start to worry about the main character. Is she in danger? Has she made somebody mad that she shouldn't have made mad? Her trying to uncover all these things. And anyway, I really just loved it. The writing is great. Of course, the 1980s part, the nostalgia, the different outfits and music and cars and things that they kind of refer to early on when you get to the aunt's perspective. And the ending is great. There's a thrilling aspect, and just kind of edge of your seat. Another one of those where I found myself not wanting to go to bed because I wanted to keep reading. And then I remember the next day at school, me trying to figure out, oh my gosh, I wonder, who did it and what this has to do with it. And kind of rushing home and trying to get all my work done so I could finish up and read it. But again, this is definitely my favorite one of the year so far, The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. And I just want to thank you for watching my video. If you have any great mystery or thriller recommendations that you think I would like, please comment down below, and thanks for watching. Bye!